Why do we think tariffs alone are going to work this time?
Why is it whenever we talk about trade deficits, your side will always say, oh, look at these failed countries. And my side will always say, well, what about China? We forget about that. They've had the most growth.
Well, I would say China, but China's not all about tariffs, right? It's about a bunch of other policies.
Trade deficits. I mean, trade barriers, of course.
All right, so
what about Germany? I mean, look at so why tariffs? I'm saying the question really is why trade barriers? Why not free trade? So if you agree with the diagnosis, right? We're selling our country because we're losing the value of our country because of other people's industrial policy. It's having a bad effect on our workers, and it's good for some very rich people. I can see that in a second. And it's good for some people that probably aren't all that rich, but mostly it's good for rich people. So you basically buy that. So how do you get back, setting aside the China problem, like how do you get back to balance? All right, that's your kind of question. What's the best way to get back to balance? I would suggest there's 3 ways you can get back to balance. One way is you can put in place import-export certificates. And that is to say that if you want to import, you buy an export certificate from an exporter. This was something that Warren Buffett proposed in that article that I talked about a little bit ago. So that's one way. Another way you could do it, and people propose this, that would make sense, is you would put a capital access fee on. So people who want to import money, want to import investment in the United States would pay a fee. And over time, that would get you back to balance. So the dollar coming back is only worth 80 cents or whatever. And then there are proposals, the Fed would adjust it so you would end up with balance. That also would be balance. The third way you can do it is to put in place tariffs. I would buy any of the 3. If you said, okay, fine, Lighthizer, you can, but to me, and this is a debate, right? The most politically acceptable one is tariffs because every country in the world has a tariff system. They know how they work. They're flexible. We have more or less an idea of what the effects are going to be because we've seen, years and years and years of them. And really what you're doing is you're offsetting industrial policy. You're offsetting basic unfairness. You're offsetting maybe the negative effects of an overvalued currency for all the reasons that you say. And it strikes me as the best tool. Now, you're going to have an element of it, which is universal tariffs, because otherwise you're not going to get the overall deficit down because, everybody will swim through the hole that you cut, that you leave somebody through, right? And then the other thing you have to do, you have to take the ones that are the biggest predators and put a higher tariff on them, either for geopolitical reasons, in part, in the case of China, but in other cases, it's either because China is shipping through them or they have some other industrial policy that's resulted in them having large trade surpluses. But it's easy to identify who the bad people are. It's not like, and it's not bilateral trade. Once again, it's global trade. You can just see that there's a list, and it's the same people every year that do this, and they're basically gaming the system. And as I say, transferring resources to their manufacturers in order to take advantage. So if you have another tool, those are the 3, I believe, that are possible tools. I would accept any of them. I think tariffs make the most sense politically. But if there's another method, fine.